In yesterday's installment of the Awesome Life Force video series that features the book of the same name by Joseph Cater, The Awesome Life Force. If you recall, the astute viewer, you, the esteemed viewer, those of you who are astute and of the note-taking disposition will recall that I had alluded to the fact that I suspected that Joseph Cater was in touch with cosmic intelligences, higher intelligences, a channel, if you were, a conduit. Whether or not he recognized that, I don't know. I haven't read all of his book. That's to be determined. But ultimately, it does not matter whether the instrument of delivery, the channel of this cosmic knowledge, is aware of that or not, or if their ego is still kind of, caught up in their own body-mind complex. So ultimately, it's the knowledge that matters, the knowledge. So I had alluded to the fact that Joseph Cater possibly was a contactee with the Nine, the Galactic Nine, the Council of Nine, who essentially is where the series Star Trek came from. Gene Roddenberry is on record for saying that, yes, he had contact with this group known as the Nine, Galactic Nine. In fact, I mean, all of this stuff, Star Wars, George Lucas, I think that's the director or the guy for Star Wars, but all in touch with these higher cosmic intelligences, whether they realize it or not, or even the Akashic records, the sort of magnetic record library of events that have transpired. It's everything is recorded in the mind of God, essentially, because all is from the mind of God, source. So this reason I'm talking about all that is, I gotta get back on track. But so this book, Download from the Nine, is a book that I highly recommend. It's by Matthias Fleury, and the subtitle is "Recognize Your Higher Self Effortlessly," because essentially that's what the whole ascension process, this going to New Earth 5D, all of this stuff that's kind of been purposely, well, I mean, sometimes purposely, but it's kind of given a lot more, what's the word I'm looking for? Let me have another drink of coffee. It's purposely obfuscated sometimes to be cryptic, to sound cryptic, but really it's just clearing all the confusion away, all the distraction, and essentially being able to recognize your higher self effortlessly, because you do have a higher aspect, a higher energetic aspect. People call it your holy guardian angel. It's known by many names, but it is a divine energy that every soul that is incarnated in these genetic vehicles, and that's a whole nother topic, that there are already AI hybrids, there are already non-player characters, soulless entities that exist. But really, for sanity and for your soul's benefit, it is my advice to love everything, to learn to love everything. And that does not mean make yourself a willing sacrifice to these energies, because there are some very ruthless programs in this matrix, non-player characters, whose sole purpose is to destroy the ensouled players in this matrix, those who are in touch with their higher self. When Jesus said, "Turn the other cheek," the Master of Light, the first meta-human, Yeshua, fourth dimensional Yeshua, third dimensional, he was known as Jesus. That's also a Greek word, Jesus. But anyway, it doesn't matter. He's, seventh dimensional Sananda, the higher Palladian energy that he was channeling at that in that particular incarnation as an emissary of light, which we all are emissaries of light. When we recognize our higher selves and act from within uh, the higher self communication, when we are in touch with that aspect of our divine anatomy. And so when Jesus, Yeshua, Sananda said, turn the other cheek, as if you had been struck, he was ultimately, that teaching is meant to turn away from darkness. Now, you should be astute and wise enough and such a capable martial artist that you are not putting yourselves in situations where you're having to use your physical skills. If it comes to the third dimension battle of physicality, you've lost already, essentially. No one wins in a physical confrontation. Nobody does. Because even if you're the victim in a situation and you have to defend yourself, you're going to be caught up in legal issues and all that. So it is always best to, like if you saw the movie Enter the Dragon with Bruce Lee, they're on their way to this island, to this big martial arts tournament, and there's a guy, he's got a scar and he's trying to get Bruce Lee to fight, before they even get to the island. And Bruce Lee basically, they're on a big boat, and he says, okay, well, let's do it over here. And so the two, Bruce Lee and this guy, they get in the little boat together to go to this other little area to fight. And Bruce Lee, as the guy's getting into the little boat, Bruce Lee acts like he's going to get into that boat, and he lets the rope go, and that guy goes floating off. Anyway, it's a funny scene, but it's a lesson, and if you can use your mind and subterfuge and things of that nature, uh, humility, even being humble. That is why the most capable martial artists were the Shaolin monks in China, but Buddhists, and followed the Eightfold Path of Buddhism, and were very humble. And that's a lesson to myself. I still have issues with confrontation, but ultimately, I always seek to tread the higher path. So that being said, your higher self, recognize your higher self, the 9 aspects. We are all, when we trace all this back and our ego kind of falls by the wayside, we're all from source, ultimately. And part of that whole thing with the non-player characters was to, and the unsold, the people that are, programs in the matrix that are sort of ruthless and seeking to do nothing but, bring darkness to another person's life. Well, that's their program. Just recognize it and put up your firewall and, move on. Awaken as you read, downloads from the 9. And with this particular book, and I'm bringing it up because I had mentioned the 9 yesterday in reference to Joseph Cater and being possibly in touch. I haven't read all of the book to see if he talks about being in touch with cosmic intelligences. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't. He seems kind of very egotistical in his own, and that's not a condemnation of Joseph. Like I said, I don't have the full understanding. I haven't read all the book and have a full understanding of his energy signature. And ultimately, it doesn't matter. It's just an opinion. So anyway, with this book, though, there's one thing that I wanted to share in particular, because I have talked about sun gazing and the therapeutic benefits to be had from staring directly into the sun. And one caveat with that practice is to, and I don't necessarily follow this because I'm just the sun geek. But the times of the day, they're called golden hours. The morning rise and the sunset are the optimal times to stare into the sun, meaning that there isn't as any potential hazards to be had. But I like noonday sun, right directly into the fiercest aspect of our soul invictus. Sometimes if I need it, I'm just going for it. Shit. Well, I'm screaming. All right. Yeah. Thank you, folks. Thank you. Getting back on track. So, with this book, incredible book, I highly recommend it. Obviously, I have the PDF version of it, and I have the hard copy of this book. Now, I looked into Joseph Cater's book. Gee whiz, I mean, you can get it on Amazon. It's an interesting pricing schematic with that book because the hardcover version of it's like around $20. The mass paperback version of it goes for $100. And these are used versions of this book. So apparently, this book, The Awesome Life Force, is esteemed among bibliophiles, and the price point reflects that. But it's an odd pricing because the hardcover version is less than the paperback, and I don't. Anyway, maybe there's different versions, but I'll have to look a little bit more into that. So with this book, Downloads from the Nine, I wanted to read this part about sun gazing. So he goes, some years ago, this is Matthias Fleury, some years ago, or who's writing this forward? Is it sometimes authors write their own forwards to their own book if they don't have, I write my, I think that might be his wife, Vaishnavi Devi. So I believe that might be Matthias's wife. She's writing the forward to this book because I want it's important to, but the point with this is about sun gazing. And I want to stress this to everybody because this is spiritual technology that has been purposely maligned and hidden from the collective. And it's also been a secret in the schools too, but in the esoteric occult schools. But this is how you improve your light body and you get your downloads from the cosmos. So some years ago, the person who wrote this book, and she's referring to Matthias, so it's applicable to Matthias, the author of this book. This is his wife writing this forward, I do believe. Some years ago, the person who wrote this book learned an Indian meditation technique that consists of directing one's gaze towards the heart of the sun. He took this new path and received guidance from certain voices that surged from the deepest spaces within his heart. And let me interject this. If there's anyone that gets all their religious trauma syndrome is activated because of certain voices, keep in mind these Pentecostals speak in tongues. You're surrounded by voices all day of the digital matrix, from your phone, from your TV, they're going through the electronic voices of the digital matrix. The artificial intelligence hive mind is constantly inundating our awareness with these voices. But no, these are divine voices. This is celestial, cosmic voices from source, from his emanations of angels, archangels, celestial beings of light. These are councils of the light, members of the council of the light. So voices that surge from the deepest spaces within his heart. And that is the true test barometer. Is where does it impact your energies? If your heart is being activated, the voices are good. They are from source. Deepest spaces within his heart. They asked him to intensify his periods of concentration. They asked this person to give them his trust and told him that he and whoever reads this book would be spiritually protected. Namaste, namaskar. With the voice's sure guidance, the author increased his meditation time day after day. Every sunrise and every sunset, he gazed until his eyes could become comfortably fixed towards the center of the sun without blinking for around 2 hours twice a day. That's a lot of time. I'm not at that point. I don't have the patience, and so I'm still a spiritual pygmy compared to this guy. That's why I'm not writing books like this, but there you go. 2 hours twice a day, sunrise and sunset. So you can do 5 minutes. Yeah, you can. The process of sun gazing has the potential to awaken various parts of any person's brain, drastically bringing about changes in their personality and resulting in greater ease for settling into peaceful and meditative mind states. As time goes by, the practitioner may start experiencing and seeing subtle realms that are undetectable and incomprehensible to others. One's progress through these stages ultimately allows one to hear sounds and voices that a person at a similar level of consciousness simply cannot detect. I'm not referring to schizophrenia or psychotic episodes. Quite the contrary. The practitioner's experiences is the achievement of complete mental clarity, security, and an amazing calm that settles into serenity and the feeling of a loving embrace. Such development leads one towards the experience of other dimensions with a fully prepared, ethereal, and expanded consciousness. Further along the practice path, one experiences images that emanate from the sun. Sometimes one may hear voices that come directly from Him, from Source, Mother, Father, God. This is the beginning of a deep understanding of the Son as an intelligent and conscious being filled with knowledge and self-realization. The established contact fascinates the mind and weakens all negative mental programming. Unexplainable events begin to unfold. I believe that sun gazing works in this way, but it is possible that I am mistaken. You are not mistaken. It may be that sun gazing activated certain parts of the writer's brain, but there is also the possibility that this phenomenon was merely created by the subconscious or unconscious areas of his psyche, unknown to a common mind such as my own. Either way, yogis, Taoists, and sages from the Himalayas and the Andes have known for ages that the practice of sun gazing establishes a direct exchange of intellectual amperage with the sun. This is not a book about how to practice sun gazing. Nowhere in its contents is there further mention of these practices. However, setting the eyes to the heart of the sun was the root cause, so to speak, of this magical text. Its unfolding magic is such that awakening is certain to follow whoever reads it. So I highly recommend this book. And I know it's a rather lengthy. How long is this video going already? All right, whatever. But to prove a point with Joseph Cater's book, how it's information dense, what I'm going to do is I'm here like on chapter 24. I'm going to kind of go further towards the back of I'm going to go just randomly. I'm just going to, bam, here we go. And I'm going to read, I'm going to go, that wasn't random enough. I'm going to go further. Damn, here we go. And I'm going to just read one paragraph that I just kind of randomly shot to give you an overall flavor of this book. So, talking about now the awesome life force. So, the remaining enigma is the neutralizing of atomic waste, which has become a far more serious problem than the public has been led to believe. This problem was solved by Wilhelm Reich about 30 years ago and was elaborated upon in detail in his book, The Oranur Experiment. It is incredible that his discovery has never been utilized. It's not incredible, it's not surprising because the powers that be don't want things to run optimally. Oh, let me keep on reading. They just want people to be subjugated, compartmentalized, demoralized. It is incredible that his discovery has never been utilized. In view of the widespread and growing concern over this dilemma, there are no invectives in the English language adequate. That's good language right there. This is a good use of words. He's a good wordsmith. There are no invectives in the English language adequate to properly describe the behavior of the scientific community and officialdom in the U.S. government in regard to this and the subject of atomic energy in general. It is one of the many dark chapters in the history of academic sciences and the U.S. government. There, he just said it. Was I not going off on that tangent? Anyway, that proves it. If you're not a fan of this video series, which is based on The Awesome Life Force book by Joseph Cater, then, man, I don't know what to tell you. Go back to sleep. Go play with your non-player character friends who just want to turn you to darkness. But that's what that teaching of Yeshua was about. I don't know if I finished that. Is to turn away from darkness. If you get slapped turn and offer the other cheek. No, that was misconstrued by the powers that be to keep people in this servitude. Doesn't mean be a doormat. Ultimately, that teaching of Yeshua was meant to turn your cheek away, away from darkness, from those energies. But as you see, Yeshua is quite dynamic as he went into the moneylender's temple and let those people know really quick what he thought about their Babylonian currency system. So anyway, I hope this video somehow finds you well, this video information. I wanted to basically talk about the nine and talk about sun gazing and just prove that this book by Joseph Cater, you can go to any section and man, you're getting just like, woo! All right. Namaste. Namaskara.